Good evening. My name is Rebecca Fong, and I'm the Regional Director for the Asia Pacific region on the Alumni Association Board. I'm honored and happy to be here. While I was doing some research for this occasion, I of course went to the Notre Dame archive. There I came across a letter written by Dr. Tom Dooley to Father Hesburgh in December 1960, 2 months before he died of cancer. After dedicating much of his life to providing medical care to people in Southeast Asia, Dr. Dooley found himself in a hospital in Hong Kong, a city where I was based for 7 years. It was so special to me, the letter, that I thought I would use some of that as our prayer. A selection of the letter reads as follows. But when the time comes, like now, then the storm around me does not matter. The winds within do not matter. Nothing human or earthly can touch me. A wilder storm of peace gathers in my heart. What seems unpossessable, I can possess. What seems unfathomable, I fathom. What is unutterable, I utter. Because I can pray, I can communicate. How do people endure anything on earth if they cannot have God? With that in mind, let us begin our celebration tonight with a short prayer. Heavenly Father, we come before you in gratitude for this gathering as we celebrate those who dedicate their lives to the service to mankind, and those work to better the quality of life of the world's youth. May joy and peace always be with them, whatever life may bring. And tonight, may we be inspired by their examples and resolve to follow their footsteps in our own small ways. In your holy name, we pray. Amen.
My name is Jeremy Dela Cruz, class of 2015 and 2019. I serve as chair of the Asian Pacific Alumni of Notre Dame, and it's my privilege to introduce this year's recipient of the Dr. Thomas A. Dooley Award, which recognizes a particular kind of lifestyle, one defined not just by achievement, but by action, by a willingness to see a need and respond to it, decisively and consistently over time. Tonight, the Notre Dame Alumni Association celebrates Dr. Ralph Pennino, class of 1975, who has spent a lifetime answering that call to service. Dr. Pennino built a distinguished career as a plastic and reconstructive surgeon, restoring both dignity and function, expertly repairing cleft palates and congenital defects, and performing life-saving skin grafts for those scarred by war and disaster. He rose to lead at the highest levels of the medical profession, serving as chair of surgery and later system chair of surgery at Rochester Regional Health. But what makes Dr. Pennino truly exceptional is what he chose to do with his medical expertise and dedication to service. In the late 1980s, Dr. Pennino saw a contradiction that he simply couldn't ignore. Life-saving medical supplies being discarded here in the United States, while physicians around the world went without even the most basic tools. So, Dr. Pennino did something about it. He co-founded Interval, an organization endorsed by the American Medical Association that has since delivered critical medical supplies to more than 80 countries and supported countless healthcare providers and patients across the globe. And Dr. Pennino didn't just build an organization, he built a movement, one that mobilizes volunteers, many of whom are fellow Notre Dame alumni, connects communities, and turns excess into access, waste into healing, and compassion into measurable impact. When crisis strikes, Dr. Pennino shows up. After the devastating 2010 earthquake in Haiti, Dr. Pennino helped mobilize hundreds of medical volunteers and Notre Dame alumni to perform surgeries, deliver babies, and provide care when and where it was needed most. But just as importantly, when the headlines fade, Dr. Pennino stays. His work has never been about a moment, it's about sustained commitment, decades of showing up for communities, building partnerships, and quietly doing the work that changes lives. What stands out most about Dr. Pennino is not just the scale of his impact, but the spirit that fuels it. His work reflects a simple but powerful belief that service is not episodic, but an ongoing responsibility. and it's a belief Dr. Pennino has shared widely, creating opportunities for others to step in, contribute, and make a difference in ways both large and small. Dr. Pennino himself has said that this recognition is really a reflection of the communities, colleagues, and volunteers who have made this work possible. And that feels exactly right, because great leaders don't just do good work, they inspire others to carry it forward. Dr. Pennino has done just that for decades across continents and for countless people he will never meet. Dr. Pennino, on behalf of the Notre Dame family, thank you for your leadership, your compassion, and your unwavering commitment to serving others. It's truly an honor to introduce you as this year's recipient of the Dr. Thomas A. Dooley Award. Thank you. Thank you.
I can't tell you how grateful and how much this award means to me because of Notre Dame and because of what Notre Dame has taught me. I thought a lot about what to talk about. I'm not used to talking in under, an hour, but I promise you it's not going to be it's not going to be a long one. I'm also not used to talking as a plastic surgeon without a carousel, or in the old days, or a slide deck of 100 or more pictures. But I decided not to do that tonight because I want to speak more from the heart. And Interval was perfectly covered what we do. We do international missions, and we do recovery of unused medical supplies. The waste is incredible, but that's another whole talk we won't go into. But what I thought I'd center on is two incidences in my life that had a profound effect. The first one was an attending when I was a resident in my 8th year. I was a slow learner. And he was in private practice, and he was a role model. And we need role models to mentor us into doing the right thing, lead by example. His name was Chet Sikora. He was probably one of the busiest plastic surgeons, but he said to me, "Would you like to go on a medical mission?" I said, "Wow, okay." Plastic surgeons are known for doing cleft lips and palates and things like that. So he took me on a medical mission, and it was an eye-opener. It changed my whole life, which really was the start. I realized the healthcare disparities between developing countries and what we have in the real world are incredible, and they're only getting worse, I hate to say it. Why should these people suffer? I saw diseases that I had never seen before because of this healthcare disparity. You have someone who has a problem in the States, they get help right away. These people didn't, so tumors grew to enormous sizes. Cleft lips and palates in 10-year-olds, 8-year-olds, the kid is banned. It's a social ban. They can't even go to school because of the way they look. And then the third thing, the thing that put the hook in me, and that was it for the next 40, 50 years, I hate to say, was I gave back a baby to the mother. Excuse me, it wasn't a baby. It was, yes, it was a baby. It was about a 2-year-old who had a cleft lip, and I gave it back to the mother. And she had just tears of joy. Tears of joy made me cry because I never did that to someone. I mean, I went through 8 years of residency. We did all these high-tech things, all this fancy this or that. It was very gratifying, but I never affected another human being like that. And it had the greatest effect on me, and the only thing that was similar to that was my children when they were born. So that was the first one. I came back, when I finished residency, I came back and you heard a very nice summary of the things that I've done with lots of people and lots of help. It's not about me, it's about them. I mean, I've literally had thousands of volunteers from both professionals to people in the community who have come out, have helped, and wanted to make a difference. They wanted to make a difference. And what we try to show them is that you can make a difference. So when we box these supplies up and ship them overseas, they see pictures of what they boxed, the medical supplies. But the second, and this is a little bit longer, most profound person to have an effect on me was one of our greatest professors at Notre Dame, Emil T. Hoffman. Emil T. Hoffman, as those who are nodding, and I may get a little older because some of you younger folks may not have known him, he truly was a legend. And back in the early 2000s, there was a pre-med student named Matt Hubbard. And Matt said, you know, we graduate so many doctors to medical school from Notre Dame. We have like a 75, 80% acceptance rate every year. We should form a society of the alumni to help mentor the kids who are still in school and need help and stuff. So he formed the Dooley Society. And we had, at its peak, probably about 1,000 members, doctors. We used to get together on football Saturdays, someone would give a talk. And then every year at our annual meeting, we would give the Founders Award. The first year, the Founders Award went to Dr. Hesberg, Father Hesberg, who helped set up the organization with Matt. The second year, it was to Emil T. Hoffman and Dr. Freeman. Dr. Freeman taught organic chemistry, and Emil T. Hoffman taught chemistry. You didn't get anywhere going to medical school unless you got A's in both of those courses, but they were incredible teachers. So Emil came to the meeting to accept. Emil was probably near 80 at the time, and he was disabled. He had a walker. And he accepted the award. And the next thing we know, he's giving a talk, and he's got a slideshow. And it's like, wow, okay. So he starts talking about Haiti. Haiti? What does the chemistry professor at Notre Dame have to do about Haiti? He started saying, well, you guys, you doctors, have to go and help these people. Well, what do you mean? Well, Notre Dame had a program that was started to eradicate a condition called lymphatic filariasis. And it was endemic in Haiti. And it was one of the former recipients of this award, Father Tom Street, actually got a Gates Foundation grant. And they started this program in Haiti to eradicate it through various means, by prevention. But somehow, Emil got interested in the secondary effects of lymphatic filariasis. Now, for those non-medical, it's a parasitic disease that destroys your lymph system and results in these gargantuan legs. They call it elephantiasis. You may have seen them. They're very large legs. And in men, they can cause hydroceles. Hydrocele is simply the scrotum with excess fluid. But a hydrocele in the US may be the size of a chestnut. Hydrocele in Haiti, well, we start with a basketball as a small one, and they get larger than a beach ball. And you could always tell the young men, mostly afflicted, who had this because they would wear these oversized, baggy shorts where the crotch was below the knee, because that's where the scrotum went down to. And he made this passionate call that you need to get involved and help this program and help them. And he started the Emil T. Hoffman Reconnaissance Mission, where he would bring groups of his former students down to Haiti. So after this, I went up and says, our group has done work in Haiti back in the 90s. Be happy to go on one of these. My son was here at the time, so we went on an Emil T. Hoffman visit. Father Tom was there. Jean-Marc was there, who was right here, who was the program director in Haiti. And it was overwhelming. Here is a guy who is 80-some-odd years old, at best days using a walker. Usually we were wheeling him, and he's taken us to people's houses to introduce what the problem is. He took us to the hospital and said, this is where you have to operate. He took us all over the place. I said, you got to. He goes, I taught 32,000 students. 8,000 are doctors. They have to come and help. He was passionate. I never seen anything like it. It was inspiring at 80. And he led 6 of these trips a year. And then he told me, well, Ralph, when I hit 85, I got to cut down in half. When I hit 90, I maybe only can do 1 or 2 a year. And I'm looking at him, and he thought I was looking at him like he's crazy. He goes, oh, no, Ralph, my family lives to 100, well over 100. I got to make plans. So we went on this trip, as I said, and he introduced us to these people, and it was just awe-inspiring. This was in 2008, the following football season, 2008, yeah. I kept running into him at his office. If any of you know Emil, his office was the bench in front of the Golden Dome. And so I go up and we talk, and then he go, "Ralph, what are you gonna do?" I said, "Well, I'm working on it." Next game, "Ralph, what are you gonna do?" So I said, "All right, I better do something." So we were pretty good at putting together medical mission trips. Haiti was a little different because it was on the State Department do not travel list, and there were some other difficulties about it. But we put together a plan, and we reviewed it with him. He introduced me to a classmate, Marty Deneen, who was a year behind me, who was a urologist, who I really needed to figure out what we were going to do. And the short of it is, we had planned for January of 2010 for 3 successive groups, teams of surgeons, anesthesia, nursing personnel, to go down and try to tackle the first 150 to 200 cases, bring all the supplies, everything with us. That's when a series of what I call interventions, the divine doctor, as actually Tom Dooley wrote in his letter that someone talked about before. He had the divine doctor in one of his paragraphs above. We had these interventions. So the first one was, in order to do any trip, you need someone on site to help process the patients, get it set up, make sure we're just the itinerant people. We're coming in, we're doing all this stuff, but you need someone there to do it. And in out of nowhere, Joey Leary, who was a classmate of my daughter, who graduated in 2009, who was accepted to medical school, pops up and says, "I'll go down for a year." What? Parents were like outraged. "My son's going to medical school, you want him to go to Haiti? Are you kidding me?" He did. And so that was the first thing. So we were set. We were ready to go. The plans were all made. We had 3 sets of alums with friends of alums ready to go in that January mission. We had primary care alums that were coming afterwards to do the follow-up care for everybody down there. So what happens? January 10th, one of the worst earthquakes ever to hit our hemisphere, and just wipes things out. Our first concern was obviously with Joey. Jean-Marc, who was the medical director, the director of the Haiti program, Father Tom, did they make it? That's a whole story in itself, but let us say, obviously, they did, thank God. But then we got the call from Jean-Marc, "We need help, we need help," all right? And so I started calling, the people started calling me who I have arranged to come down, and they said, "Let's go down to Haiti." Well, it's not that easy. How do you get there? So that was the second divine doctor intervention. I figured I'd ask someone who was on our hospital board who owned a company called Constellation Brands, and I knew they had a corporate jet or 2. So I said, "Rob, would you by any chance want to give me a jet so I could get down to Haiti with a bunch of doctors?" And he said, "Ralph, no, I'll give you both of them, and for as many times as you need them." And boy, I said, wow, that was incredible. So we had the transportation to get down there. Notre Dame wasn't too crazy about us going down. They said, no, we shouldn't go down. We never tell a surgeon no. Because you tell a surgeon no, they're just gonna go do it. And that's what happened. So the first group we put together was Dan Tao, who received this award in previous years, Kevin Olnick, an orthopedic surgeon. They brought colleagues of theirs, so we had a group of 6 people who were going to fly down to see what we can do. Now, the problem, there were like 5 interventions. I gave you 2. The third problem was, well, how do we get to Leogan? Because we couldn't fly into Port-au-Prince because the military took over the airport. So somehow I got this message that CENTCOM in Tampa was working with nonprofits to help them coordinate the services of getting down there. So I call up CENTCOM. I got this colonel or major or something, and I'm talking to him very nicely, telling him we have all these doctors who are ready to go, that we just need to get there, waiting for his response. He says, "Hey, Ralph, how's Pontillo's?" "Pontillo's? Yeah, I'm from Rochester. How's the pizza place? All right. Then I said, wow, that's another divine doctor intervention. He goes, yep, we'll get you there. If you get to Santo Domingo, we'll helicopter you over to Leogan. Wow. I mean, you know, how lucky can you get? We've got a jet plane, 2 jets that were going down, and we got the military flying us over. So this was all set. Everything was done. We started getting the community pulled together in Rochester, started packing up boxes. The 2 airplanes, the pilots, the whole crew got together. They took one plane, stripped it down so it could be a cargo plane so we could load as much stuff onto it. We're ready to go. The teams are flying in. That day I call up. We're supposed to leave the next day. Called up my friend at CENTCOM, said, okay, what are the logistics? I got bad news, Ralph. We can't do it. What? Can't do it. Got a little scuffle with the Air Force and availability of helicopters. I said, I got people flying in from the Midwest, from New England. You got to be kidding me. You got to go. Sorry, Ralph. So I'm literally driving to the airport when the 4th incidents occur, divine doctor. And I'm trying to think, what am I going to tell these guys and women that were in the group? And I get this phone call. This is Dr. Pennino? Yeah. I hear you're looking for a way to get to Leogan. Yeah. Well, we can get you there by a little caravan. And I'm thinking, minivan? No, caravan the plane. They're little 8-seaters. And so they have these 8-seaters. You ever been to Martha's Vineyard or the Virgin Islands? They do island hopping. There are 8 people in them. So these pilots flew down to make themselves available, somehow found out about me. To this day, I have no idea how they even found out about me or got my phone number, and said, if you can get to Santiago. I said, Chile? No, Santiago, the Dominican Republic. He goes, if you can get there, we'll get you to Leogan. Okay. So I call up the pilots. The pilots rerouted the paperwork they had to do. Next morning, we were up going to Santiago. Land in Santiago, and did another little miracle. There was a whole group of volunteers who helped unload the one plane that was filled with supplies, and then warehoused it for us at the airport, because the little caravan could only take so much weight. And so it meant a lot of trips going back and forth. It was about a half hour, 40 minutes to go from Santiago to Leogan. But the final problem came, where do you land? There's no airport in Leogan, not yet. And that's where Jean-Marc came in. And Jean-Marc said, well, you know, back in the day, the drug runners used to land on the road outside of Leogan. There was just enough that you could land a plane there, and then they used to take off. Now, that was with the little ones. This was a little bit bigger. We weren't sure. Go for it. So another, divine doctor intervention took off that day and looked down. I remember looking down. I can visualize it now. And I said, where are we landing? Oh, that little thing over there. Came in over a bridge. The plane was wider than the road, and these guys just got it in. Jean-Marc pulls up with the Notre Dame truck, door-to-door service at the new Leogan International Airport. Now, that started 6 months of teams of doctors, nurses, volunteers coming in 9-day stints, 9 days with a day or two of overlap for every one. And this went on for 6 months. This went on for 6 months, and then, everybody forgets, and interest fades, and no longer interested in the States. But in that time, I could spend hours on it was just the most incredible experience of my life, working with all these different groups and all these different people who just gave of themselves day in and day out in the most extreme conditions. It wasn't like you're pulling up and pulling these people into the hospital. You had to build everything. You had the ultimate MacGyver to do stuff. We stayed, we continued, we still worked with Jean-Marc down there. He was our guardian. He told us what we could do. He's from Leogan. And we continued with Marty Deneen doing the surgical missions. And then we had the primary cares, Trish Curtin, Laura Lerner, Mary O'Connor, and many, many, many more. These are all Notre Dame alums. And the thing about Notre Dame alums, they come with their friends. You know, it's not like, you know, when Kevin Olnick came down from Maine, he came in with a urologist and a general surgeon. Perfect, that's what he needs. He's an orthopedic surgeon. But everybody brought their friends because they shared the purpose. They shared the purpose of what had to be done. So this went on. Actually, the groups continued to go until the pandemic. Marty is just, God bless him, he died unexpectedly of a rare tumor 3 years ago, but he had done over 30 trips. So to think that this 80-year-old man, all right, started this by giving a talk for an award that he received, wanting his 8,000 doctors to do something about one of the poorest countries in the world, for that matter. And how did he do that? The chain effect, the leading that he did, the inspiration that he gave. The two final things. One is that we always, Jean-Marc, always wanted to have a school, a real school. You know, Haiti's got the highest percent of volunteers to people who live there in the world, the volunteers that go there. Church groups, good meaning groups, this, that, but nothing is ever coordinated. You know, and you hear about all the orphans and the orphanages and so on and so forth. People want to adopt them, bring them back. What it needs is education. You change a country, give them good health care, give them good education. It was his dream to build a school. And in 2017, with the first donation from Marty Deneen to buy the land, we've been building that school, continuously adding classroom after classroom and upgrading. We will be done this year. We just met on, we'll be done this year with grades kindergarten through 13. We've got internet, we've got a pump with solar for water. The kids get a hot meal a day, which sometimes for these kids is their only hot meal. So again, what started with Dr. Hoffman accepting this award and telling us, get off your butt and do something, it was just amazing. It was just amazing. Final little story to tell you. There's so many, but as I said, I'm going to try to cut it down. Final little story. With all the turmoil in the world, every day you don't think it can get any worse, and it does. You know, it just does. We had a Haitian pregnant mother who went into preeclampsia, which is a very serious situation. You can die from that, and the baby can die from that, and you need to go into special care, special IDs, special medicines and stuff. And we didn't have that, all right? But we found out, because everybody communicated, all the groups, the Japanese, the Chinese, the Israelis, the Cubans came, and they had brought a little intensive care unit, particularly for neonates and for mothers. And we heard about that. So I have a picture, and that's the only thing I wished I could show you, with the Jewish American doctor helping the Haitian pregnant woman onto the back of the Catholic Notre Dame truck to be delivered to the Cubans to take care of her preeclampsia. Now, if that isn't international cooperation, I don't know what is. You cross religions, you're crossing ethnicities, you're crossing political structures. And that was just a highlight of the trip. And finally, I'd like to thank my wife, who's not here tonight because she is helping my youngest daughter who went into preeclampsia and had to have an emergency C-section. Otherwise, she would have been here. And my kids, they're helping my wife with my daughter. They are very special, and one of the greatest things that I had was when they started going on trips with me. And when they were 10, I took them on national trips. We worked on an Indian reservation. And then when they got older, we went on international things down to Central America. And it's the best way of teaching your kids is by example. And that's what I learned. I learned from the example of my first attending, Chet Sikora. I learned by example from Emil T. Hoffman, who will be a legend, but he should be a legend for the effect that he had on the people in Haiti. So I'd like to thank the Alumni Society. I would like to thank all the people who wrote very kind things about me. Again, it's not me, it's all those people that worked with me. And thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ellen Webb, class of 2003, and I have the privilege of serving on the board as an at-large member. I'm honored to offer the benediction this evening. So as we close this celebration of the Dooley and Reynolds Award recipients, we pause in gratitude for Dr. Pennino and Dr. Battlebeck, whose lives reflect the very best of Notre Dame. Tonight's honorees remind us that the Notre Dame spirit is not just something that we carry, it's something that we live. It's present in how we lead, how we serve, and how we show up for others. As James Baldwin wrote, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. So may we leave here ready to face what is ours to do, to strengthen this community, the communities in which we live, and to be a force for good in all the lives that we touch, living the spirit of Notre Dame in all that we do. Thank you.